Hello. Someone requested that I do a video on how to sharpen a cabinet scraper. This is one I made myself from an old saw plate. If you want to make your own cabinet scrapers, you need thin steel and preferably spring steel, tempered spring steel. They need to be, you have to cut them in a way that you don't ruin their heat treat. Otherwise, it won't hold an edge for you. Old saw blades. Old ones, not new ones. Old saw blades. I find are very good. This is one I made. I have a few more that I'm going to make. Ones with little tighter radiuses to get into tight spots. That sort of thing. I found it pretty amusing that someone would request me to do a video on cabinet scrapers, given that I have like 10 subscribers and maybe a couple dozen views. So this one is working. It's got a nice burr on it right now. So I'm going to take that burr off first. First things first. All right, so I'm going to take a 400 grit lapping diamond lap and just rub that burr off. There we go. I'll do just a straight edge, I think, for interest of time. Now, let's see. Do I have a right angle here? No, it looks pretty good. First thing I do is usually I use a file. So let's in a vise. Just chuck that in the vise here. This is Moxon style vise, made as cheaply as possible. As you might see, that it's not a fancy vise. First thing I do is kind of dress this up a little bit. One thing you could do if you're worried about not being square is put it right on down deep in your vise so it barely sticks up, and that way you can use your vise to square the file. There you go. So I have a nice clean straight edge, I think. There's a lot of videos there on YouTube that does a better treatment of how to sharpen a cabinet scraper, but it was requested of me, and I don't mind doing it. So from the file, I do feel a little bit of burr there already. I kind of wanted to get rid of that because that burr isn't smooth. All right. Now, next step is you want this edge to be perfectly square. What a cabinet scraper is, it's some pretty cool things. Okay, imagine the plate of steel is right here. And, okay, here's the steel blown up. All right, that's the end. That's the square face right there that I just created. All right, what you do is what you're trying to do is deform this corner into creating a burr, a hook, that's sharp, into creating a little hook like this. And that burr is going to be, you want it consistent, nice and sharp. And what that burr does when you scrape it along a surface, it takes off like less than a thou of an inch. It's amazing at what it does. Just wispy thin shavings. And what that allows you to do, well, number one is like the technology that you had before sandpaper. But number two, because it takes off such a non-aggressive cut, it does really good with grain that's difficult, like in grain, curly grain around knots, that sort of thing. So that's what we're trying to do on the minuscule level. I'm not going to say microscopic because it's not quite that, but on the minuscule level, we're trying to create a little burr that's consistent, that's smooth and sharp. Smoothness is important. All right. This is my lapping stone here. This corner I confirmed to be a perfectly 90-degree angle on that corner. So I'm going to lay that there. And what I'm going to do is begin to just address that edge of it. Make sure it's nice and clean. Trying to keep it sharp. I mean square. I'm going to use a finer grit now. Now that's totally unneeded, but we're talking about trying to get the most out of it. So, boy, I gotta take it easier. Okay, getting close. Now I'm showing you the proper technique of doing this, but I will be honest with you. Usually I just sharpen it right off the file. If your file is nice and square, if you keep your file nice and square when you're doing it in the vise, you're going to get a pretty decent edge, to be honest. Alright, so I've cleaned up that edge, nice and square. And what we have now, on the minuscule level, is that perfectly 90-degree angle corners on both sides of the plate, right here. Within reason, at least. And now what we need to do is form that corner off. Stretch it and push it until you get a burr. So you need to clamp this in the vise. What I'm going to do, kind of like peening a head of a pin or a nail or something. I don't have a proper burnishing tool. A burnishing tool would be a cylinder of metal that's hardened. That's like a high Rockwell hardness, like 60 Rockwell or something. Harder than the steel, so that you can use it to push and deform the metal without it cutting into the burnisher. I don't have a burnisher. So what I use is a chisel. This older chisel has very good steel in it, and I find it pretty good. I get what I need out of it, so that's it. So first, perfectly right angle, no tipping. Just go back and forth with a fair bit of pressure if you can. You can see I didn't get it down in the belly there as well as I should have, but that's okay. Like I said, doing it fast here. Maintaining that right angle here. So what is this doing? What's that doing is it's mushrooming. It's mushrooming this head, kind of pushing the metal down into like a little mushroom head right here. That's what it's doing. Like that. Now what we want to do, take it out of the vise, like so. I'm going to drag this way to kind of pull that mushroomed head out over the edge. And what that's going to do is kind of stretch the metal back up off the corner with maybe a little bit of an angle. I'm talking about a couple degrees, not very much. Do the other side. Okay, let's put it back in the vise. So we just turn that mushroom up into the top here. So now we're going to flatten it back down. I can feel it actually. You can actually feel the metal move. Okay, now we have a burr, I think. I better confirm that. Now what we want to do is kind of draw that burr out into a little hook that will hook the fibers of the wood and give you what you need. So right now we're going to tip it this way. That's exaggerated, just by a couple degrees. And tip it this way, so when we draw the metal out, it'll kind of plow it this way, kind of like a snow plow. And kind of move this way in the same motion. And I'll do it on this side too. This corner. Okay, I'm going to do it on the other side now. Kind of dangerous holding the chisel like that, but I'm going to make a burnisher sometime. Just when you got something that works, you're not highly motivated to change. Okay, so now hopefully we've created this burr. I can feel it. Let's see. How can I demonstrate that? I'll demonstrate it with a knife. Okay, this knife is going to slide on the surface. When it gets to the edge, it hooks. See that? See how it hooked? That means it's hooked on that burr we've created. Now that burr, because we've created a perfectly sharp corner, when we drawed and stretched and a smooth, nicely polished, when we've drawn out and stretched that corner out, it created a sharp edge on that burr. And that is what makes a cabinet scraper work. So I'm going to put a piece of wood in the vise and demonstrate that. So what we're going to do is not going to do anything like this because the burr is kind of pointing at an angle because we just turned it down with our burnishing tool. So we need to find the angle. If you go too sharp, it's just pulling the burr off the end. So you want to find where it bites. And there we go. Let's try the other side. Perfect. Now, these shavings, and bring you around again. These shavings are super, super small. Super, super thin. And the surface it leaves behind is it's a beautiful surface. Ready to be, that's finished. It's completely done. It don't need sanding. Again, just look at these shavings. Now these are behind a glassy a glassy texture on the surface of the wood. Well, there we go. That's how I sharpen my burnisher and my scraper. I need a new burnisher and I need more scrapers to do what I want to do. But you know, this homemade one does the trick. This small radius is really good for taking shavings off in a localized area and not touching anything else. One thing I do that I didn't do here is take a file and clip the corner here. Just clip the corner so you won't have the corner. If this was a wide board, the corners would be leaving a line. But if you clip the corner, it kind of feathers off that cut so you won't see the line anymore. Just a little thing to be aware of. But that's it. There's just nothing like it. And to think you can buy these for cheap, pretty cheap on Amazon compared to most tools that's available to the woodworker. But you can make them yourself. Why did we ever stop using these? I don't know. Because they're fast, they're easy to sharpen. I took a long time in this video, but usually I don't do half of those steps, you know. Anyways, it's a beautiful tool. I'm glad someone asked me to do a little video on it, because it's just marvelous. Let's do this side. That's just awesome. Let's put a couple pencil lines in there. Just beautiful.